Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining today. We have a lot that's moving. Ford is still popping up on their earnings report. Of course, we have some good action from Tesla. What else is new? We can see Tesla is just lingering right around that $1,070 level. It's holding its ground very well, and to be honest, Tom, I'm a little bit surprised how well it's holding its ground. Like, it's just under $1,100 each, and it's still uptrending.
Yeah, I am too. And I would almost expect another uptrend today here. Maybe at market open, we'll see a pretty big pop up. I know that move up yesterday was pretty significant. And so far today, it's looking pretty hot. I love how it's holding its ground. And like you said, it even broke that high of yesterday today in pre-market. So I feel like that there could definitely be some strength coming in here. And I would love to see it continue up. And, people have been looking at 1,200 by the end of the week. And if we break 1,100 to the upside today, who knows? We might be up towards 1125 or 1130 by the end of the day.
There we go. So yeah, Tesla's definitely one to watch out for. I was looking at DraftKings too, Tom, one of my favorite stocks. It's, slowly popping up, but then again, it's been it's been very disappointing lately, to say the least. So I'm hoping for a pop back up today, but you know how that one is.
Yeah, definitely. They're all over the place lately, and they had that weird stuff go on with Entain earlier in the week where they scrapped the deal and they actually moved up off of that. So very strange movement here. I hope that they can hold this 48 support. I've had it on my chart for a long time, and with the way that they're popping up here and holding it at open, I would not be surprised if DraftKings ended up holding its ground here and maybe got a little bit of a pop up. I'd love for them to come up and retest $50 today.
Yeah, and then we can't forget about DWAC. This stock is just lingering around right now. Of course, it had that crazy hype from last week where it went from $10 up to $175 in less than 2 days. That was one of the craziest moves I've seen in a while. And it's just lingering right around 70. And I'm very curious to see if, because obviously a lot of, I guess you can say, hype money flowed into this one, at least for the short term. So I'm curious, given Shiba coin or Shiba USD, you can say, exploding, I'm curious if people will sell off this and shift into Shiba. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised, to be honest. I'm sure that a lot of people just like to follow the hype. And, whenever we saw AMC and GameStop going on, obviously people were following the hype there. And I feel like lots of people are definitely going to be eyeing up Shiba right now. It's a pretty big moving crypto right now. We can see I actually have it here on the chart. It's been really volatile so far today. If we look at it over the past 5 minutes, let's say, you can really see how last night it was going really up and down. So pretty crazy mover here, but overall, I would not be surprised if people were kind of getting out of some stocks and then getting into Shiba. I would not be surprised. But one other thing, Mike, is that Tesla's also popping. So maybe they'll also be buying some Tesla.
True that. So I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. So thank you guys so much for joining, and welcome Jamie, Connor, Frank, Rick, Dang, Head, David, Corbin, George, and Hunter. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you are watching today, and we could definitely take a look at them. We have Head saying Lucid is doing pretty well this morning, so let's take a look. LCID up 5%, Tom. This one's been doing pretty good over the past couple of weeks. It's been on a pretty strong uptrend.
Yeah, it really has. And I love how it's getting up towards that high of yesterday at market open. If we end up breaking $29, I could see a pretty nice run up towards that $30 resistance up there. And Lucid's had a pretty big resistance there around $30. So definitely be careful over the next couple of days. But I love the way that they've been uptrending, even though, they've had two green moves in a row on the daily chart. You can see the candles were actually red. It was some pretty volatile movement. They had a big move up at open yesterday and then fell right back down. And it looks like as of right now, they are coming back down at open. So just be a little careful with them. It seems like they're all over the place.
There we go. So welcome to the stream, Vicky. We have Corbin asking about OSTK. So let's take a look at that one. OSTK, this thing is up 13%, Tom. Honestly, I haven't been following it too much, but that daily setup doesn't look too bad.
It really doesn't, actually. This is a pretty nice setup. I love it. I love how it's breaking out above that level just a couple days ago. You could say right around 86.50. I think that was an amazing resistance level to break, and it looks like a pretty good runner here. And with them breaking that, I don't really see another resistance until $93 or so. So I think it could be a pretty good play over the next few days.
There we go. Awesome stuff there. Across the board, Tesla is definitely leading the way to the upside. They're up 4%. They're leading my watch list, I should say. But yeah, Tesla's looking pretty good. Enphase is still holding its ground. While at the same time we have like RUN kind of tanking off. So I think that's pretty interesting to see. You know, they're both in that solar sector. Run is struggling a lot more than Enphase, which isn't that good of a sign.
Yeah, that is not a good thing to see. And hopefully these growth stocks don't start dipping back down. I know that they've been moving up pretty well the past few days, and I'd love to see them continue. But if they all continue to sell off, that would be also a pretty bad scenario. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I know that DraftKings is down again. They are red also at open. It's not a good sign. It seems like even Penn Gaming got a big dip down. It seems like lots of stocks are honestly dipping down pretty hard. We have Corsair also pulling back. So just overall today at open, it hasn't been too good of an open yet. But, you know, we had those big stocks run up yesterday and after hours like Ford, which is trying to run up today. But with some stuff pulling back, I feel like it's just pretty hard for these stocks to run.
Yeah, Ford also, I guess you could say, reinstated their dividend. So I thought that was pretty big.
You're right. That was amazing news, actually.
Yeah, so I think that should also bring in a lot of buyers. And I feel like Ford, like, while we probably won't see like a, what is it, like a 50% run up in a couple weeks like we did with Tesla, I feel like it's more of like a slow and steady stock, and I still think it's at like a pretty decent level. Plus the dividends coming back too. So I've been thinking about getting some shares of Ford, but I didn't pull a trigger yet. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a good time to buy it on that last dip whenever they dipped down to like $12.70. I know that it's always hard to buy the dip because there's always weird news coming out and stuff like that. But man, that recovery was awesome. We ended up breaking out today above that high of like 1650, and it's a really nice breakout with Ford. I love to see it, and that with them reinstating their dividend, Mike, I think that's going to be a really big factor because I know that really hurt them in the short term whenever they took that away, and I really hope that helps bring the buyers back in. And I also feel like that'll give more investors an incentive to hold this. Like, you know, these guys who might have bought this last dip at $12, they might have been looking to take profits here around 16, but with the news of the dividend coming back, I mean, they might just hold it.
True. All right, so welcome Spacely and Bill to the stream. We have George saying Teladoc coming back up. So Teladoc really is very interesting, Tom. So it got smacked yesterday in after hours, and now it's green. Like, this stock is really confusing me. You know, like, I saw a lot of smart money get into this one, and then I'm watching the earnings report. It went up to like 144, and then it crashed down to 130. I'm like, well, it looks like the smart money might have lost on this one, and now they're back up to like 141. So this thing is all over the place.
Yeah, I cannot believe that they recovered back up like that. That was a really weird thing to see. And especially after they had that bad earnings, you would have really thought that maybe they would continue down a little bit more there. But, you know, looks like they held that 130 support. They got right back up. And, you know, that 130 support's been pretty big on the daily chart. So I'm really glad to see it hold that. And I cannot believe, like you said, that it recovered all the way back up, and it created a very strange like W formation there too.
You know what? I think this tells us that, you know, there's a lot of big money buying the dip because, like, it's pretty hard to to have a turnaround from 140 down to 130 and then go all the way back up. Like, look at all the volume that's coming in at open. I think that's a pretty big statement here. So I think you should really keep your eye on Teladoc over like the next couple of weeks. I know it hit a lot of volatility in the short term, but I feel like for like a longer term play and maybe even a shorter term play, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, and even like with the earnings, like even though that they moved down on the earnings, you know, they did actually beat on the EPS. Like they were estimated to have negative 69 cents, and they actually had negative 53 cents. So they actually beat on it even with that bad movement. And, you know, maybe that'll show the strength coming in. And, you know, we kind of saw a move like this with Tesla, Mike. Like with their earnings, they kind of dipped down a little bit, and then they opened up the next day and just exploded. So, you know, it's good to see this with Teladoc, and hopefully it follows Tesla and then continues up here for the next few weeks.
There we go. All righty. So awesome share, George. Thank you for that. We have Connor saying Microsoft pullback today with a question mark. So yeah, it looks like it right now. The last time I checked here, let me just check something really quickly. So so here's the thing. Microsoft is pulling back a little bit, but Apple is exploding right now, and then even the market has a lot of buyers coming in. So personally, like, I don't like to like short like a huge stock like Microsoft, especially when like other tech stocks are exploding up, and even when the market's exploding up. So as of right now, it looks like it's pulling back, but at the same time, it's hard to fight the market.
Yeah, it's pulling back and it's honestly still above a lot of like good levels. Like on the 15-minute chart, like we're still above the 100 SMA, which, you can use that as like a very short-term like trend indicator if you want. And, if we're still above that, it still has a pretty good chance to bounce, I'd say, and possibly go back up. Like Mike said, the rest of the market's doing fairly decent. Like Apple is honestly having a pretty big uptrend into their earnings here tonight. And they're actually looks like they're approaching all-time highs here. So if those earnings go good, that would be actually awesome for Apple. And hopefully Apple can push to new highs, because I know Microsoft has been making new highs here, especially yesterday. They had a really big move to the upside. And I really hope that like some of these other stocks can also get big moves to the upside as well. But it looks like today Microsoft is kind of pulling back, Mike. And, while it is coming down, like you said, there is still a chance for it to go up later on. And I don't think the pullback's too significant yet.
For sure. All right, so we have Connor asking about thoughts on Beyond. So BYND, what are you thinking?
I kind of think that this one has been also all over the place lately. Obviously, lots of stocks have been all over the place, but they've been kind of coming back over the past couple of days. They had that big drop from 108 all the way down to like $91, and it looks like they are coming back a little bit. Now, the thing that really worries me with Beyond is that they broke that $100 support, and then they came up, they touched it yesterday, and then they failed to break through it. Now, I love these green candles here after that big drop. So if they can, if they can get a big move back up and possibly break $100 back to the upside, I would love them. But until they break $100, I don't think I'm going to play it. You can play it up onto that $100 touch, which I think would be pretty cool. Kind of like yesterday, that we had a pretty nice move intraday to the upside, came right up to that resistance. So I feel like that if you're playing it up to that, it's a good thing. Or if you're playing the break, it's really cool. But in the short term, I'd be pretty careful with it. I had that big move down. They just broke support and they're kind of retesting it. So I would give it like a week or two before I get in for the long term. But for shorter term stuff, it's been awesome, as we saw yesterday with our hybrid bot.
There we go. Awesome. So we have Dang saying, I'm watching AMC dip to $34 yesterday at low 35. There was an article about Citadel building a large call options position. They are definitely playing both sides. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And one thing to keep in mind is, let's say that Citadel has a large short position with shares. It would actually be very smart for them to buy calls when the stock dips down, because they are in a situation where no matter what happens, they can win. So it depends on the strike price of their call options and the cost basis of their short position, but it's actually a very common thing for hedge funds, prop firms, and even institutional traders to do that, because it just limits risk and it puts them in a good position. So I really wouldn't doubt it, and I actually see it quite a bit, like when I'm looking through some of the order flow on these chains. So great point there. And Tom, like on a technical basis, like how's AMC looking?
Honestly, it's not looking. Honestly, it's looking kind of bad on the longer term basis. In the shorter term, the good news is that we're getting close to some of these supports. We're really close to this $33 and then the $30 support after that. And I feel like we've had lots of bounces on these levels in the past, but we also have earnings coming up though on November 1st. So I feel like that those earnings could really make this stock move. The last time we were on that $30 level, we had these earnings and we ended up moving pretty well over the next few weeks. So I don't know what's going to happen here with AMC. Personally, I'm pretty worried about it. I don't like how it fell below the 100 SMA and then confirmed off of it. To me, that looks pretty bearish. And also, we're retesting this 30 support now for the second time. And I feel like we had a nice bounce off of it last time. But whenever we had the bounce, we posted lower highs then on the daily, which is a pretty bad technical. And then we posted lower highs again. So it's just, to me, it seems like we're in a pretty bad downtrend. And I feel like we might finally break that support to the downside. And I don't know, maybe the earnings will go well and they'll get a big bounce back. But either way, to me, it's just not a play for me. I'd rather play some other stocks that are on awesome levels right now, kind of like Teladoc, CRSR, CHPT, RUN, Enphase, Lucid. There's so many other stocks out there that I'd rather play.
Good stuff. All right. Then we have Dang saying DraftKings and Corsair do the dipping. Yes, they are, unfortunately. So they're both taking a beating. At the end of the day, they are both growth companies. So this is like kind of expected, but it sucks to see them not moving in the direction we want them to. I really like both of these stocks for the long term, and I think they'll do great. But there's no doubt that in the short term, both of them have definitely been struggling, and maybe earnings can turn around DraftKings. But either way, it's definitely a longer term play for me, and I'm eagerly waiting for this positive momentum to be back.
Yeah, me too. And it's been a long time waiting, and we've been bouncing off this blue trend line quite a bit. This is like the third or fourth bounce here. I hope that we hold this and we end up going back up. These earnings could really play a big difference. We've seen it before where DraftKings has had earnings and it made them tank down, and then they've had earnings before and gapped up. So I would not be surprised to see a big move back to the upside if the earnings go well. And I really hope that they do, because, there's been lots of stuff going on. We've had the World Series. We've had football starting up, basketball starting up. I feel like it should have been a pretty good quarter for DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm with you, but who knows? Like sometimes, like everything lines up for a stock to explode and then it'll tank 20%. So who knows? I'm just waiting for this momentum to be back. And actually, Tom, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I was looking on, I think it was Hedge Follow or Whale Wisdom or something like that. And there's actually like a decent amount of smart money flowing into DraftKings. I think it was like Citadel, Two Sigma, and a couple other firms. But I thought that was interesting to see. And in my opinion, that's a good thing.
I think that's a great thing too. If they're buying the dip, that would be amazing. And even if they have a bad earnings and they end up, breaking this trend line and maybe falling towards that $40 support or something, I still don't think it would be that bad. And I feel like that those big players would not be too worried about it, because keep in mind, over the next few years, they just have the opportunity to keep growing. Honestly, as these states start legalizing, it'll be pretty big deals. Now, keep in mind, it's a state by state basis, of course, and every state is different. So some states are coming up in the next couple of years, and some states are talking about it within the next 5. So it's going to be pretty interesting, but I feel like that they just have some really good longer term potential.
There we go. All right, so we have Connor saying Enphase broke through, and then calls with a question mark. So let's take a look. ENPH, let me just pull it up on my chart. So it's up like 1%. It did break resistance for a second, but it got rejected. So if you're not in it, then I wouldn't get in it. If you are in it, then just watch that support. I would say right around 215 or so. But yeah, it looks like it definitely broke through for like a second, and it came right back down.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a fake out with Enphase today. Hopefully it goes back up, because that I'm sure a lot of people bought in right there whenever it first broke, and I really hope that it gets back up there. I know that they've been kind of breaking that or they've been getting close to that all-time high, and I've been kind of waiting for a break of that, and I really hope to see that later on.
Yep. All right, so we have George saying Teladoc. This also happened last earnings. Check its price action on the 28th of July. So let's take a look. TDOC said the 28th of July. Let me pull that up. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it's like the same exact thing. Like the last earnings report, Tom. Like it gapped down and then exploded up over the past 2 days, and then it slowly faded off. So hopefully this time it just keeps popping up. But yeah, great observation there. And then George also said that Lucid is up 8%, which, Lucid's having a day. Now it's almost up 9%. And Tom, we're getting really close to like a big time breakout.
Yeah, we really are actually. Lucid having an awesome move. I love to see this up towards that $30 resistance. I'd love to see them break that and just fly up. I know that they've been trying for a while now. I wish I would have bought shares of them whenever they had this big dip down here and they came down towards that $20 area. Really hard to buy though. Lots of people were talking about they broke that big support, this and that and the next, but looks like they ended up roaring right back. And I hope that they break $30 and get a nice run. I'd hate to see a breakout, but hopefully they break 30 and then they start to move back up towards maybe $40 or some of these bigger levels that they were at in the past. I'd love to see it. I know that they've been getting some really good news lately as well. Like, of course, everyone's been talking about Tesla and NIO and stuff like that, but Lucid actually got some pretty big news over the past couple months with their cars. And I know that they've been having some pretty big announcements and stuff like that with batteries and stuff. So it's been pretty good for Lucid. And, it seems like that they're actually getting some good traction. Like a lot of these EV companies, like, you could say like Workhorse, for example, they just haven't been moving too well over the past few months. But some of these other ones like Lucid and a couple others like NIO are actually moving pretty well to the upside. And I feel like that some of these companies that are actually kind of like getting some good headlines, some good news, and they're kind of getting along fundamentally. I feel like that they're really starting to show their strength here, like Lucid, NIO, even XP, what is it? Xpeng, Mike?
Yeah.
XPENG or
XPEV.
XPEV. That's right. It's definitely a strange ticker, but look at how much they've even been flying up over the past like couple of months on their big news.
Exactly. Yeah, great points all across. And then back to Lucid for 1 second. We need some levels for Vicky. So what do you have for us?
Definitely look at $30 coming up. That's going to be the biggest level in the short term. As far as a good support, I would definitely look at $28 on the intraday levels. That's going to be a pretty big area. We've hit there multiple times. So definitely look between $28 and $30. If we break $30, I don't see too much resistance to the upside. You could maybe say there's some resistance up there at like $32, $33. So once we break 30, I feel like there's a pretty good opportunity for a breakout, but just be careful because it could always fake you out. Of course, we see that happen every once in a while.
Yep. All right. So we have Hunter saying Twilio got demolished. So TWLO down 18%. Holy, I can't even believe that. I didn't even see that till now. So Hunter, I don't know if you're thinking about selling some puts or not, but I'm a little tempted. Like looking back at past major downturns with this one, it looks like it normally sells off for a couple days. So maybe I'll wait until like tomorrow or Monday, and if they're both red days, I might sell some far out of the money puts, but this thing's getting destroyed.
Man, that implied volatility is starting to shoot up too. Hopefully we start to see a big jump out of that to get those premiums up. And, we did fall down. We're kind of around that support here, right around like 275. After that, I see support around 250. But man, I'm with you. I feel like this could be a pretty good opportunity. And, they're in a pretty good sector for the long term too. They're kind of like a DDOG or, similar to stocks like that. I feel like that they're pretty good in that like cloud sector. So I like them, and I feel like for the longer term, it'll be a pretty good pickup down here.
Yeah, my only concern is I'm looking at some of these put options that are far out of the money, and the spreads on these things are huge. So I don't know if Thinkorswim is like misquoting this, but like let's just say, for example, the 200 strike put for November 5th. I know this is like forever out of the money, but the bid is at $3 and the ask is at 345. So it's like it's so far out of the money. That's my only concern. But either way, I'm definitely gonna watch this one. If it keeps falling, I'll probably sell some puts on it. But thanks for pointing that out, Hunter. Then we have Navi saying, good morning, everyone. How are we feeling about Ford? So I'm really tempted with it. I feel like, relatively speaking, they're cheap, but that's compared to Tesla, which, that's, what I mean? So I feel like, relatively speaking, they're cheap. I might buy some shares, but I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
Yeah, me too. It's hard to buy it whenever they're kind of breaking these highs like this. They're also getting pretty close to some of these resistance levels. Like there's a pretty big one here actually on the max daily chart, right at like $18 to $20. So I'd be pretty careful with that. But at the same time, with all the EV news, this is kind of like a different scenario. Like during 2013, 2014, 2015, it was just business as usual. But right now, I mean, they're kind of changing the game. And I really hope that them and GM can continue up because they were really growing a lot. Like in the early 2000s during that .com boom, like, man, look at Ford. They were exploding, moving from $18 all the way up to 38. And, we could see a similar move with that with the EVs coming out. I feel like that's really changing the automotive landscape, and it's really going to change the way these stocks move and function over the next couple of years. So I feel like it's a pretty good pickup personally. And I feel like that, especially if you have other stocks like Tesla, NIO, maybe Lucid and stocks like that, Ford and GM, I feel like that they're just no-brainers to pick up too. Just keep adding more diversity into that sector. And I feel like that they're just so established that they won't go anywhere.
Here we go. All right, we have Spacely saying OSTK is moving for the day trade. Thanks. So OSTK, yeah, it's looking pretty solid on a daily chart. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it looks like ever since open, Tom, just like buyers been flooding into this one.
Yeah, they have. It's exploding up to $92. And where did we open? Somewhere down here, like around 84. This has just been a very explosive move. Good thing that those earnings went well for them. And I'm glad to see Overstock kind of getting this boost back up because they were in a pretty similar setup to some of these other plays that we've been seeing, kind of like TWLO. And, TWLO, like we saw gap down. If, for example, like if it was Overstock, they might have fallen from 80 down to like $60 or something like that. But I'm really glad to see the big move up. Obviously earnings can go either way. Like we saw with Twilio, they gap down, but Overstock is gapping up. So I'm glad to see that. And I think we'll be heading up towards that $100 resistance pretty soon.
There we go. So yeah, across the board, lots of stocks are moving today. Even Apple's up nearly 2% ahead of earnings, so that's great to see. We have George and Sean mentioning Plug, so we have to take a look at that one, Tom. How's Plug looking?
PLUG. I know that's probably, well, hey, this is actually a really good turnaround with Plug today. I know that they were right at that resistance. And to start the day, they had that bad move down at open, but I'm really glad to see the recovery. They ended up breaking the resistance to the upside. Man, I've been eyeing these guys up for the past few days for a break of this resistance, but we've just been failing and failing to break out. I'm really glad to see the final break of it this morning, and I hope that Plug can keep running. Look at this daily chart. It just looks pretty good with this breakout here, and I hope that we can get up towards $40.
There we go. Sean said Donkey Horse is also on the top of his list. Workhorse, I mean, yeah, it's still definitely Donkey Horse. I was looking at it so much, like, what was it, like a month ago now or a month and a half ago? And ever since they had that news with the SEC, I was like, you know what? I'm taking a break from it.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, man, that was some scary news with the SEC, and obviously they've just been continuing to sell off in the short term. But I hope that they get a pop back up just in the short term, with especially with all the rest of the sector going up. Like we got Tesla, Lucid, NIO, just a lot of other stocks are moving, and Workhorse has just been staying down here. So I really hope that they can start to get that recovery. But it just seems like that they just keep breaking support after support. So it's really hard to buy, but hopefully these earnings go well.
You know it. So, looks like Spotify is also slowly creeping up there. I don't think this one has the hype that like an Apple or a Lucid has, but look at this chart. I think it looks pretty awesome. And Tom, we talked about this, what was it, like a week or two ago for like a dip buy, and it's looking pretty awesome, and I like it for the long term.
Yeah, me too. And I know that they're a really popular app for music and stuff like that and podcasts, and it's a really good platform. So I'm glad to see them doing well. And they're moving really good off these bottom supports, like at 225, like with what we talked about a couple weeks ago. And I really am glad to see them breaking these key resistances, especially right around 275. I think that's just a really good technical move. And I'm just really glad to see them breaking that. And I feel like that there is resistance coming up around $300 a share, but I feel like we could have some good momentum up into that.
You know it. So, Tom, let's do a check-in with Hood really quickly. This thing's down 4%, and we are getting really, really close to a new all-time low. This thing has been struggling on their earnings release, and, it's looking pretty rough. Ever since they IPO'd, they've been pretty volatile. I mean, at one point, this stock was trading for $85. Now it's at $34. So this just goes to show you how volatile IPOs can be. Looking at it, it's not looking good. Like there's just not like any momentum to the upside, and there's just a lot of sellers coming in.
Yeah, there is. It's not good. This was a very unfortunate thing that happened with Robinhood. And, lots of people were talking about this before it even happened. Like before Robinhood IPO'd, I don't know if you remember, Mike, but there was actually lots of people shorting it right there. And I know people short everything, but it seemed like that a lot of the GameStop and AMC traders particularly have really taken a disliking to Robinhood over the past couple of years. And it just, they did a lot of that weird stuff, and it wasn't necessarily Robinhood's fault if you really looked into the situations, but all that volume and stuff. And then they would like limit the selling and everything. It just really left a bad taste in people's mouths, I think. And it's just a really weird situation. But in the end, it's so crazy to see them down towards their all-time low after that big move. I really was hoping they would hold this support here around $40, but man, those earnings just didn't do good enough for them.
You know it. Alrighty, so we have George saying, look at that action with Apple today. So AAPL, this thing is up over 2% now. Tom, this thing is exploding, and You look at like Microsoft over the past week or so, and that thing broke all-time highs. So I have to wonder, like with Apple earnings today, is it possible to see the same setup, with Apple that we saw with Microsoft?
That's what I'm wondering too. I was looking at that actually earlier today, and I've been actually eyeing Apple up over the past couple of weeks because I've been seeing Microsoft and a few other stocks running up to highs, and Apple's been just kind of actually lagging behind a little bit. I know that they made that high a few months ago, but I'm glad to see them coming up now, and I really hope that they can at least retest the high of like 157 at minimum here with earnings. And they've been having a pretty nice pre-earnings run up, so hopefully, I don't know which way the earnings is going to make them go, but like you said, hopefully it gets them to go up, and I'd love to see them break all-time highs. I think that would be an amazing move, especially with their competitors doing so well.
Exactly. All right, we have had saying, what do you think about SE for the next month? So looking at SE, it's on just an amazing uptrend, and it's hard to bet against it. But at the same time, you can make the argument that it's already too overbought, and now it's going to come down. So I feel like this one is pretty hard to say. They have earnings soon as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's very interesting of a stock. I personally right now, to me, I don't like the setup. I think it looks pretty bearish in the short term, but they continue to prove me wrong. They just keep going up and up. So I feel like it's a pretty good company, and they're obviously moving very well. But I'm kind of with with the second scenario that you said, Mike. Like I'm almost on the fence about buying it because it's just went up so much over the past few years. I feel like that there's got to be a little bit of a pullback at some point. Like, man, this has just honestly been a crazy explosion actually out of SE. And, they're in a good sector. So I hope that they can keep going up. But in the short term, I feel like they might get a little bit of a dip down. I kept saying stuff like that about AMD, NVIDIA, stocks like that. And they just keep going up too. So I think there's a pretty good chance for it to keep going up given what we've seen the past couple of years. But personally, I don't think I'd be buying shares right here. I might try to swing some calls or something, but I don't think I would risk too much on it.
Gotcha. All right, so good stuff there. Tom, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but Teladoc is leading my watch list after just, again, like, it's hard to even describe what happened in, like, the past, 24 hours with this one. So either way, I'm really happy to see it. It had an amazing turnaround, and I hope it goes up to like 200.
Me too. That would be an awesome move if they go to 200. But
Yeah.
wow, I cannot believe that they're back up towards that 145 resistance. And man, what an explosion. I just cannot believe this kind of like weird formation that they had. Like this is very rare. I know that they did it in the past, like last July. Whoever pointed that out, really good find, actually. That was a really cool thing to see that they did it before too. But either way, it's a really interesting earnings move. And I don't know, I like them for the long term. And I feel like right now it's a decent time to pick up shares, especially while they have the hype. Like if they continue up like this for the next couple of days, we'll be kicking ourselves for not buying this one.
Oh, I know. So yeah, I mean, George had like an awesome observation, saying how in their last earnings report, the stock did the same exact pattern. So very interesting overall. Let us know some of your top stocks for today, everyone. We'll definitely take a look at them. I feel like we have to give Lucid a little bit more coverage, Tom. I mean, it's up, what is it, 11% now? Like what's, what are some of the next levels? Like I know we covered it a little bit earlier in the show, but, I feel like it has some pretty good momentum.
It really does. And look, you can tell here on the 180-day 4-hour chart how we're really getting close to this $30 resistance. And I feel like it's just on a huge uptrend right now. It's continuing to run. And I'm really hoping that it really breaks $30 with some good momentum. We're actually like right there, 29.97 as we speak. Let's go look at it on the 1 minute to see if it can happen. But we can see on the 1 minute chart, 3 huge candles just came into the stock, and we broke right out of that trend line I had posted. So hopefully we see a nice pop, and we're already up 10%, but I don't know if we break $30. I'd love to see a run up to 30, 31 or 32 and possibly get the stock up towards like maybe like 13, 15%. That would be awesome. But it's hard to buy it intraday whenever it's already up this much, but I'm so glad to see it running. And I feel like it was just such a good pickup over the past couple of weeks, man. I'm really kicking myself for not getting this one.
Yep. Yep. It's pretty good for some short puts too. Like it has some pretty good premiums. Hunter, definitely check it out. We could see that the IV's basically at 100%, and even though the stock's at $30 right now, if you go like a month out in time and you sell like the, I don't know, maybe like the 23 strike puts, like you'll get like around $45 cash today, 85% chance of winning, and worst case scenario, you just buy at 23. So I think that's a pretty good deal. So definitely check that out. We also have Plug popping off, Tom. This thing is up 5%, and it's definitely breaking out.
Yeah, this one's actually breaking out very well. I'm glad to see them breaking their resistance, and it's having a nice move. So definitely glad that Plug is finally moving. I know that they've been sitting here for the past like 5 days or so, and it's just been having a lot of consolidation. So glad to finally see the big move there and not the break to the downside. It seems like these growth stocks have just been on fire lately, and hopefully they all keep breaking their highs like this. We have Lucid running, Plug running, Teladoc running, Blink's running, CHPT is even running today. I mean, man, there's so many stocks on my watch list that are green, and a lot of them are just these big growth stocks that have really been fueling the market over the past couple of weeks.
Exactly. So Rick mentioned Ford. It's holding its ground very well, up like 12% or so. It's still on like a pretty awesome uptrend, like when you look at that chart, and I'm glad that their dividend's back. I think that'll bring in a lot more buyers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good announcement by Ford. And, there's been a couple other companies that have taken away their dividend too, kind of like I think one of them has been AT&T. They announced a dividend at least decrease, but I think they announced that they were discontinuing it, didn't they?
I thought it was a decrease. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, I think it was a decrease as well. But either way, though, a bad announcement for them. But I'm glad to see Ford bringing it back. I think that's a really good thing. I was just pointing it out because you can see AT&T has been going down a little bit. So hopefully Ford gets a big boost up with that. Like I said earlier in the video, I don't feel like the dividend's necessarily going to bring in much more buyers. But to me, I feel like it's going to make a lot of these buyers who have been buying it hold it for a lot longer. And I feel like that's a really good thing because we're just not going to see the type of selling pressure that we might usually see. Like if a bad piece of news comes out, a lot of these big investors might choose to hold Ford rather than sell it or something. And they might already be up 50%, but if they're going to make 4% a year or 5% a year, I think that they might look at it and just decide to hold. And I feel like that's always obviously a reason to have the dividend, but I feel like that it'll have more holders rather than bring buyers in.
Gotcha. So it looks like AT&T actually cut their dividend in half. And I know
okay, that's what it was. I knew it was a pretty bad announcement, whatever it was, whenever they had it. But yeah, having your dividend is pretty bad. I know that Ford had to totally slash theirs for a while, so I'm glad that I'm glad AT&T didn't totally get rid of it like Ford did. But either way, they have to, and you can see that they've been moving down pretty bad.
For sure. And like even Boeing cut their dividend. Like I remember when everything was going crazy in March and February, they just cut their dividend. Like their last payment was January? Yeah, I think January of 2020, and they have not sent another dividend out, which is a good and a bad thing because like it costs the companies a lot to do that. So they're kind of like saving themselves, but at the same time, it definitely is disappointing for the shareholders. But either way, I know a lot of people, like when they think dividend stocks, they think AT&T, and when the yield gets cut in half, it's definitely not a good sign. So definitely keep that in mind. And it's good to see Ford, bring that dividend back. I think it shows a lot of strength, even with everything going on with like the chip sector right now and the market overall. So definitely keep that in mind. We have Hunter saying eBay is getting hurt. So EBAY oh wow, yeah, they're getting smacked too. I thought they were doing pretty well, but no, earnings completely turned them around.
Yeah, they were doing well for the past few weeks, actually making new highs, running up to 81.19. But like you said, those earnings did not go well for them. They had a pretty bad turnaround here. They actually beat on their EPS pretty well. I'll have to go read into them a little bit and see what ended up going on. I wonder if they had a bad outlook or if the revenue was bad, but the EPS was pretty good. They had a 0.9 EPS versus a 0.723 estimate. So it seems like a pretty good earnings report, but like we see sometimes, sometimes the stocks just fly down off of bad outlooks and stuff like that. So hopefully eBay gets back up there in the longer term. I feel like that they're a good long-term play, kind of like Amazon or something like that. I don't feel like that they're bad, but at the same time, I feel like that they're pretty high here on the daily chart right now.
Yep. Yeah, so we have Max saying paper-handed my lucid calls around 29.50. Way used to getting faked out by this one. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, and I don't blame you. Either way, it's pretty close to like the higher. Like if you got out at 29.50, it's not like you got out at like 26. So yeah, like you can never catch the top, but I still feel like it's a pretty good price point, and no one knew for sure that it was going to continue up. But all in all, I mean, just a lot of buyers are flowing into this one, Tom. And let's keep in mind that this stock is it is a hype stock. So, the more people that talk about it, the more people that'll probably buy it, and then the more it'll probably rise. And the more it rises, the more that people will talk about it, and then more people will buy it, and then the more it'll rise, and this cycle will keep repeating itself until it gets overextended and it pulls back. But overall, like, I do like them. They're not my favorite stock in the world, but I feel like they're in just an explosive industry that is set to grow so much over the next couple of years. And just look at Tesla, like their stock, what did they do, like 10x over the past couple of years? So I feel like Lucid does have potential, and it'll definitely be on my radar.
Yeah, me too. And I love the sector, and I'm so glad that they're finally like getting out onto the marketplace. Like they're coming out with their Lucid Air, and they're coming out with all these really cool like cars and different concepts, different battery news and stuff like that they've been coming out with. I feel like that they've been really doing pretty well for an EV manufacturer. It's definitely a lot better than NKLA, which put out a fake truck without an engine in it. So, we've seen lots of strange EV companies over the past few years, and I'm glad that Lucid is one of the good ones. I would say, like, if I had to choose like the top 3, in my opinion, besides Tesla, I would probably go with NIO, Lucid, and the last one's pretty hard, but I would probably go with XPEV.
Gotcha. I'm surprised you didn't say Ford.
I didn't think about them in a way. You're right. I didn't even think about them like that. They're kind of like in the back of my mind. I love them for the long term, and for the next few years, I think they'll be awesome for the EV industry. But I guess kind of like that's kind of my point. I guess I just didn't think about them like an EV company yet.
Yeah.
That didn't even pop in my head. But now that you said that, I'll never forget it. So now I'll always think of them like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like over the next couple of years, once they come out with more electric cars, that people will really start thinking about them more of as an EV company.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Plug. It is up 8%. It's exploding. it's going crazy.
Man, I'm a little sad with this one. I posted in our swings chat last night. I was eyeing this one up, but we were right at resistance. I just couldn't buy it on the resistance. But man, we exploded up. If anyone was playing this for a day trade this morning and they were playing that 35.50 break, it would have been an amazing entry right there. So congratulations to anyone who got into Plug. I really like the daily setup, and I thought it was in a pretty explosive sector, and I'm glad that they're moving up. We saw a few other stocks even yesterday, like Enphase, Mike. Enphase had an amazing move the past few days, and I was really hoping that some of these other ones like Plug would start to follow along, and it looks like it's actually kind of playing out that way.
True that. All right, so Vicky's asking for some levels on Plug. What do you have for us?
Yep, let's go back to the 180-day 4-hour, because a lot of these levels are pretty far away, actually. We're breaking these resistances that we actually have not been to $36 on this, or I should say like $36.50 ever since like April of this year. So I would say that it looks like there's some pretty big resistance here in the short term, right around $38 and then $40. So I would be really careful of that today. I feel like with the way that we broke out, we have a pretty good chance to possibly run up into those levels. So I would be pretty careful of that. Past $40, the next one I have that's pretty major is going to be 50. I think that's going to be one of the bigger levels. But with Plug, as we can see on the daily chart, once you break $40, you're pretty you have a pretty wide range up to 50. So I feel like it'll happen pretty quickly whenever it does happen, but just keep in mind, it's pretty risky. You're getting up into some resistances now. It's pretty hard because it's kind of like in the middle right now. We're heading up towards $40 and we might hit resistance pretty soon, at least intraday.
There we go. Another one that's creeping up there is Chewy. It's up like just under 3%. It definitely doesn't have the momentum that Plug or Lucid has today, but still, I think it's looking pretty good, and it's definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah, I actually like it. I like how the daily, you had these two kind of red consolidation days, and now it has this big green candle coming back. It kind of reminds me of a couple weeks ago. We had the same thing kind of happen, a couple consolidation days. Then we had that big explosive move up, a couple more consolidation days, another move up. It's kind of like a nice staircase effect to the upside. And I love that type of bullish setup. If we break out above $70, I think Chewy will be an amazing play in the short term and for the longer term. But either way, that seems like that resistance right there is going to be pretty awesome once we break it.
There we go. So yeah, those are the main stocks. Tom, out of like all of these setups in the market right now, like what are you looking at?
I'm actually eyeing up BLNK. Actually, they've been consolidating for quite a while down here, and we have a lot of other stocks moving up, like these bigger stocks like Plug, Lucid, lots of these EV slash growth sector stocks. And I feel like the BLNK and CHPT have been slightly lagging behind the market. You can see CHPT has been popping up a little bit more, but BLNK itself has actually been beaten down pretty bad. It's just failing to break out above this $30 resistance, and it's not had these good moves over the past few days, unlike a lot of these other stocks. And in the past, BLNK has moved pretty well, so I feel like that they could get a pretty good move back to the upside over the next couple of weeks. It just keep in mind, they're kind of lagging behind, so maybe that's showing that they're having some problems, but I feel like that they're pretty low right now for the longer term. And with the rest of the sectors popping off, I feel like that they're pretty good. CHPT might be a little bit better in my opinion, especially like other stocks like RUN. I feel like those stocks are better than BLNK, but I just wanted to point that out because they seem like they're really staying down there, Mike. And a lot of their competitors slash other stocks in their sector are really starting to pop off.
All right, so we have Freddy's asking about the SPY. So it looks like it's definitely taking a bit of a hit right now. There's no major news I'm seeing on Thinkorswim. The last piece of news was just the pending home sales, but that isn't anything major, like at least as of right now. So yeah,
We had that bad news last night with those taxes.
yeah, that's a good point. Then like the infrastructure negotiations, that could be another thing. I'm just not seeing anything major on Thinkorswim this second. Let me take a look at some of the leading stocks in the SPY. So like if we go to if we go to like the SPY or S&P 500, Thinkorswim's being so annoying. I keep trying to click SPY and it's messing around. But my main point is that some stocks that have a strong influence on the SPY, like Google and Facebook, are definitely struggling. I mean, there are some stocks that are definitely popping up too, but all in all, I'm not seeing like any major news right now.
Yeah, I'm not either. And here I'll kind of bring up I'll bring up like a heat map here of like the S&P 500 so we can kind of get like an idea of how it's looking today. And it kind of looks like it's having a pretty good day so far to me. There's a few things down like NOC, like Northrop Grumman. Honestly, these defense stocks have not been doing too good in the short term. I know that ever since we left Afghanistan, I'm not sure if they won't be using the jets quite as much or what's going on, but I know that those stocks have not been moving well. But we can see for the most part, most of the stocks are doing pretty well today. Like J&J's green, looks like the drug stocks are green. Tech stocks are mostly green. Like Microsoft, they say is down 0.38%, but we have Apple really making up for that. Lots of these chip stocks are very just unmoved today. AMD's down, but we have an Nvidia up. I would say it looks like a pretty good day overall so far, especially with the way the growth stocks are moving up too. I don't see too many stocks kind of going down today. NOC is having a pretty big drop. There's a couple bad moves on earnings, but for the most part to me, Mike, I'm seeing pretty good movement.
Yeah, same here. That's why I'm a little bit confused by this chart on the SPY. So, maybe we might get some like a news update in a couple minutes or something, but the market's not crashing or anything. It's just a decent sized pullback, especially for like a 5-minute candle. So, good call out, Freddie. We have Johnny saying Penn and DraftKings down today. Yes, they are down today. So, these stocks have been struggling a lot lately. They're trying to come back up, but it's been a while since we've seen some good movement out of them. So, like I said earlier in the stream, I'm eagerly waiting a turnaround.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully these earnings go well for them, but I don't know. I'm not banking on it too well right now. It's just the last earnings did pretty good for them. They actually had a pretty good EPS. So hopefully it goes well again. But, with the way the stock's been moving, it's pretty worrisome. And I really hope that they get a nice boost back, though, over the next couple months. And maybe with the growth stocks and stuff going up, maybe that'll help Penn kind of get another uptrend.
Here we go. So we have Mike saying, "Good morning, everyone. What happened to Upwork?" So Upwork is down 8.5% on earnings. Their earnings weren't too bad from what I saw. I did not look into them fully just yet. This is like the third time I'm looking at them today. Like I said, I did not dive deep into their numbers, but we can see that one of their price targets were actually upgraded from $57 to $60. And then another one was upgraded from 72 up to 74. So it's pretty good. To me, it just looks like some profit taking. But then again, I did not fully look into their fundamentals.
Yeah, it's just I don't know too much about their fundamentals either, but I will say here, just looking at the technicals on the daily, they were definitely at a pretty big resistance area given the $60 to $65 resistance. So I don't know. It's really hard because lots of stocks ended up moving up through these levels with earnings and they popped pretty well. But it looks like Upwork, unfortunately, the earnings didn't go the best and then they had a little bit of a dip down. So, the earnings are always 50-50. And this is exactly why we usually don't play earnings plays. Even though Ford and some other companies had great runs, it can always hit resistance, then fly down too.
Yeah. All right, so Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything you are watching for tomorrow?
Well, I just want to check out Lucid one more time here on the daily chart, see how they're moving, or I mean on the intraday chart. Looks like they're actually up through $30 pretty well, breaking out. I'll say definitely watching Lucid for the rest of the day. Plug is still on the radar as well. I know that they were breaking out pretty well earlier too, and it looks like they're actually still running up as well. So those two stocks look pretty hot today. Another one that's been moving up pretty well is MU. They had a big run up early on, and they had a little bit of a dip back down in the middle of the day. They're in that semiconductor sector, so they're going to be all over the place. So be pretty careful with them. But if they get a big breakout above $70, it could be good. If you see it continue to sell off here, it might be a pretty good put opportunity too with the way these semiconductors have been moving. But either way, just wanted to point that one out. They had a pretty big early morning move. And then we just have a lot of these growth stocks moving like CHPT, BLNK, stocks like that. I feel like that those are going to be the main ones to be watching today.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We had a great time. A lot of stocks are moving in a very big way. Lucid being one of them. ChargePoint's not looking bad. Teladoc had an amazing reversal. GME's kind of moving a little bit. So lots of movement today. So again, thank you guys so much for watching and have an amazing rest of your day.